So here we go. Probably my favorite update of any of the old jobs, Machinist, albeit a bit late. These changes are so good, they've made me seriously consider switching my main. So without wasting any more time, here's what's changed and what's new with Machinist and Shadowbringers. The first thing to note is that your main rotation is no longer based on procs. Split Shot, Slug Shot, and Clean Shot now combo into one another without the need for ammo. On that note, the ammo system has been removed entirely. These skills will also be permanently upgraded to their heated versions through traits at levels 54, 60, and 64. The next and arguably most significant change is the heat gauge. It is now strictly a resource system rather than something you have to actively manage to optimize your DPS. As a result, cooldown has also been removed. In my interview with him, Yoshi-P mentioned that the heat gauge was the most daunting part of the job for many players providing feedback. As someone currently leveling Stormblood Machinist to 70, I can say that was certainly true for me. It does eventually come together, and I can see where people find enjoyment with it. However, in my opinion, it's not particularly intuitive in Stormblood, and that's largely due to how the heat gauge functions and is presented. It hasn't gotten boring in Shadowbringers though, so just bear with me for a second. Barrel Stabilizer now just increases the heat gauge by 50. Overheating is now attached to a new ability, Hypercharge, and gives access to different weapon skills rather than increasing overall skill damage, at least from how I'm understanding it. You can also still build heat from weapon skills while overheated now. Flamethrower is more or less the same, but it doesn't generate heat anymore, though Spread Shot still does. Clean Shot now has the added effect of increasing the new battery gauge by 10. I'll get more into that in the What's New section. Hotshot has also been changed to a roughly 40-second cooldown that deals damage and increases the new battery gauge by 20. Ricochet and Gauze Round are now charged abilities with up to 3 stacks, but Gauze Barrel has been removed. Wildfire now deals damage based on a set potency per weapon skill executed over the duration of it. Now you won't have to worry so much about doing as much damage as possible and simply figure out how to line up your rotation properly. Once executed, it will also now become the skill Detonator, which, as you may have guessed, ends the wildfire effect and applies the damage. Tactician has been made into a machinist-only ability and reduces damage taken by the party by 10% for 15 seconds. It can't be stacked with Bard's Troubadour or Dancer's Shield Samba, so this will be one of the things you coordinate with your party members when using, at least when in a raid setting. Your turret will no longer be a persisting pet, but summoned via the battery gauge. The more gauge used, the longer it will stay out for a maximum of 15 seconds. It has also been simplified to Rook only. While you lose out on having an AoE, there are new abilities that I believe will fill that role nicely. This will also upgrade at level 80. Rapid Fire has also just been removed. Kind of. For what's new, we have the battery gauge, which I touched on earlier. This will be a new resource used strictly to manage your turret. The more battery you have, the longer your turret will stay out. I don't know why, but even with the simplicity, it felt really good just to have there. Hypercharge, as mentioned before, is the new ability that will overheat your weapon for 8 seconds. It can be used multiple times since it only costs 50 heat gauge. Using it twice will extend the duration rather than resetting it. Upon execution, you will also gain access to 2 other weapon skills, Heat Blast and Auto Crossbow, which are single target and AoE respectively. This is kinda where Rapid Fire went. Again, these are weapon skills, so they should count towards Wildfire, but they put other weapon skills on cooldown, so you won't be expected to weave them between your normal rotation. As an added bonus, Heat Blast will reduce the cooldown timers of both Gauze Round and Ricochet by 15 seconds, so while those don't appear to contribute towards Wildfire, it's extra burst during your overheat phase. Drill and Bioblaster are 2 new weapon skills on roughly a 20-second shared cooldown. Drill is a single target attack, and Bioblaster is a cone AoE, which is also a dot. These will also increase the battery gauge by 10. Finally, your Rook will upgrade to the Otamatone Queen at level 80. This is the mech summoned during the job action trailer. It will attack and execute its own weapon skills automatically, and also has a maximum of 20 second summon time. The final ability, Pile Bunker, can be called in early with the Queen Overdrive ability, and does more damage based on the starting battery gauge you summon the Queen with. I wasn't able to test whether or not this counted towards your wildfire damage, but I've heard it will not. That seems counterintuitive to me, and they may change it later on if that's the case. Even so, not relying on everything to be in a single burst window does free you up to use your mech once it's ready, rather than waiting for everything to line up with Wildfire, as has been the case in Stormblood. One other thing that I just noticed that I hope is changed is the fact that the time starts counting down as soon as the ability is used, not when the mecha is active. So there's about 5 seconds of wasted battery gauge just from the summoning animation. If they counted this as part of their damage calculations, that's fine, but it just doesn't feel good. Still, overall, I'm really happy with these changes, and while it will take some time to figure out what's optimal, it seems like you get quite a bit more freedom with your rotation. Barrel Stabilizer is still on the same cooldown as Wildfire, so you will, for all intents and purposes, always have Overheat available during that window. The fact that you can extend Overheat and generate heat during it means you can get a lot more burst, even beyond the Wildfire window. And the new ability showcasing more tech that you utilize during combat is a big yes to me as well. As many of you may know from my Stormblood Monk video, job identity is huge for me, and they really hit the mark for Machinist here. Plus, a giant robot. Man, I'm excited to play this job. Anyway, that's it for now everyone. This is admittedly much poorer quality than most videos I make, simply because I don't have a lot of the specific footage to show off what I wanted to talk about, but these changes really left an impression on me during the media tour, so I wanted to share my thoughts at the very least. I unfortunately was more preoccupied with getting used to the new gauges than testing out all of the other skills that have been added on. I honestly didn't even realize what most of these new abilities and skills implied with their descriptions until I looked over everything with fresh eyes once I was home. It's something I'll try to do better in the future if I'm ever given the chance, but I am sorry I wasn't as thorough with this one as I should have been. If you want a better look at some of these changes, I think Larry Zor did a very good job at showcasing the abilities and explaining things that might make more sense than what I was able to do here. Link to his video below. With that being said, thanks as always for watching, and take care.